So
And
what
yeah,
got the fat? So we're talking about Dave Asprey. Am I saying your name correctly?
yeah, Asprey, you
Okay,
got it.
Asprey. So nothing's working, and I'm as you're talking, I'm literally knowing from experience you can intermittent fast and work out and all of that, especially if you're a woman of a certain age,
Oh
and
yeah.
not in the frustration of that. So now people are doing Ozempic, because
Hmm.
it's easy, but there's long-term impact of that. I want folk to
Yeah.
be here like you 180 years, since now you set the new bar. So thank you
I
for
love
that.
it. You're welcome.
So what did you run into with your engineering background that did work?
Well, I went to the doctor in Palo Alto, and the guy told me vitamin C was going to kill me. So I just looked at him and I said, "What about?" And I named an expert in the field, and he said, "I don't know who that is." And I just said, "You're fired." And I never paid for that visit. It was on my credit report for 7 years, and I never saw a doctor for the next four
Well, you
years.
let it ruin your credit.
I was like, absolutely, and I just kept contesting. No, I'm not paying it. He didn't do his job, and yeah, I took the hit on my credit. Just a principle. I'm not paying $100 for that. And so I got pissed and I said, "Look, I'm teaching engineers how to build the internet. We can hack into all these systems. How hard could it be to hack into our body?" But see, I'm not a doctor. Right? And I ended up becoming a mitochondrial expert. But that's because I studied how do I control the system? What hackers, we don't care about all the
Love
details.
this.
How do I make it do what I want? And the definition of biohacking, when I came up with this idea, this movement, it's the art and science of changing the environment around you and inside you so you have control of your state, control of your biology. So you want to look a certain way, you want to feel a certain way, you want to show up a certain way. It's not just what you try, right? It's everything around you. And how do you just tweak it enough so your body will change? And maybe it's about effort and will and visualization. And it is about those, but it's not just about those. And if we could just know if you push here, this happens, and you push over here, this happens. If you do them together, it works, right? So I just approached it because I was naive and I was from outside the industry. And what I came up with is this radical idea that the body responds to a lot of different signals in the world that we don't pay attention to. And if we could just line enough of those up, it'll change the way our body senses reality. It'll tell the body that it needs to change and that it's safe to change and it has enough energy and information to change. So cutting calories when you're trying to put on muscle is the worst idea ever. And if you're trying to lose fat, you need to put on muscle. Instead, what I was trying to do was just starve myself. It just doesn't work. And it's mean spirited because when you're fat, and I was pretty fat, and I can call myself
Yeah,
that.
300 pounds is pretty
Yeah, I'm
big.
200 now. And I was a willpower athlete. Every single day, they put cookies out after lunch at work. And I look at the cookie and I'm like, all right, I'm not going to eat the cookie. And the cookie's like, eat me. I'm like, no, eat me, no. And it's like a 2-year-old. And finally, I'm like, okay, fine, I'll just eat half. Right. And then that I'm like, why did I eat half the cookie? And why did I eat the whole cookie? Like, ah. And it's this thing. Willpower is a finite resource based on how much energy you have. And if you just eat lettuce, you're not going to have very much energy. You're not going to have very much willpower. So it just became this game of not liking myself because I felt like I was betraying myself because I didn't understand something fundamental about reality. There's two consciousnesses inside your body. There's you, the part of your brain that you identify as you, that thinks and notices, and there's an entirely different consciousness made out of ancient bacteria that runs your hardware. It's like an operating system on your computer, right? And it's made out of mitochondria, and they all talk to each other. And there's way more of them than there are you, and they're really fast, but they have logic. They just don't know that you're in there because you're so slow. They're sensing everything in the world around you that you don't have time or energy to pay attention to, right? And then they're making a whole bunch of little decisions. And based on those decisions, they decide how much energy and how much stress and how much fear and how much hunger and how much lust you're going to experience, right? And even how much of a desire to go out and be in the world, right? So they're going to allocate all that, and then they're going to make you feel some stuff, and then you're going to think that's reality, and you're going to make a decision a second after they already decided for you. So if this sounds crazy, you've leaned on a hot stove accidentally and you pull your hand away. You go, good thing I pulled my hand away before I got burned, but you didn't pull your hand away. Somebody else pulled the hand away and you took credit for it. Well, that's the part of us that we're hacking when we meditate. Imagine this. You got your phone and you go into the psychologist and you're like, Doc, I'm trying to use my phone and these alerts, they keep popping up, these notifications all the time, and it's driving me crazy. And the doc goes, well, just gently swipe to the left on the notifications and continue focusing on your work. You'd probably get a new doctor, right? And you go to the IT guy and he says, well, let's go to the system settings and turn off notifications for TikTok so you can focus. Right? We're doing the same thing with meditation and with all these other technologies
Mm,
for getting control of ourselves. If you're triggered, it's not that you decided to be triggered. It's something happened in your body and your nervous system and your cells before you could think that made you triggered. What's
mm.
that? Who's that? Why is it happening? Let's hack that. And what happens is we can take these 5 things that drive all of reality, and they all start with the letter F, and then we can turn them into the opposite of them. Like the first thing that all life does, I don't care if you're like a slime mold or a politician or something, or a
Which
blade
could
of
be the same
grass.
thing. Yeah.
Exactly. So whatever it is, if something is scary, you got to run away from, kill, or hide from it. So that's fear. And the opposite of fear is peace, right?
I thought it was faith,
You know,
but what?
faith is beautiful because faith will turn off fear because you have this deep inner knowing, and faith is a feeling, not a thought. And it's a direct cancellation of fear. And when you have faith, it brings you peace. Right?
Okay, I
They
got it.
go
I got it.
together.
We're
And
talking heavily meditated. I want to tell people with David
yeah.
Asprey. I remember seeing I read a story about a little boy that had brain cancer, and he was on some popular show because he said he imagined like Space Invaders, like a video game, every
Yeah.
night before he went to bed, and he was killing shooting the tumor, shooting the tumor, shooting the tumor with the,
Yeah.
and the tumor went away. And from that, you understand the power of our minds. Why aren't we able to tap into that? You talk about our ego maybe being a part of this. You know, your ego is
Yeah.
smaller than ours. Is do we not give ourselves enough credit to have that kind of power, or is that
we
possible?
we all have the power to tap in and change things the way that little boy did. And there is a control panel for your ego. And every time we pray, every time we do breath work, every time we go for a walk in nature, we do something sacred, we do any of these ancient practices that put us in altered states. Each altered state is a doorway for you to go in and change the settings inside your body. And you start seeing the world the way your body sees the world. And if you go into an exalted state, whether you're speaking in tongues in
I
a
love that.
church or whether you're fasting in a cave for days, and all of a sudden you start just tripping and you start seeing sparkles that maybe they're there, maybe they're not. That's just you starting to see the world the way your cells see the world. And suddenly you connect with them, or you connect with a higher power and you ask for help. These are all ways to go in and change the programming in our body so that it better senses reality. And what that little kid was doing is he was going in and telling his body in a language it could understand, because it was a language of feeling in the body, not just thinking. It's about telling yourself how to feel, but not thinking about feeling, but actually turning on the feelings in the body. That's what turns off trauma. That's what turns off hate. That's what allows you to go in even when you're afraid and show the body, you know what, I'm feeling fear right now, but it's not a useful emotion because I'm
I
not
love
really
this.
unsafe. And you bring that feeling of safety in. And what I did in Heavily Meditated, I've been working for 10 years in a really expensive neurofeedback program where I've been measuring brain waves of CEOs and hedge fund managers and people like that, high performing people, and teaching them how to let go of old ancient triggers that are controlling their reality. And the program I developed, it cost $20,000. I'm giving it away in Heavily Meditated. There's 8 steps. It's called the reset process. You can do it at home. It works better with computers and facilitators and all kinds of stuff, but you don't have to have that. And if there's someone at work, someone at home, your mother-in-law, whatever it is, and they just get under your skin every single time, it's actually not them, it's you. You're being triggered, their fingers on the trigger. So you want to unload that. And you can unload it by yelling at them, but that doesn't work very well. So you want to go
That's
in
right.
and say, what's going on? And all you got to do is go back. And it's not all you got to do, but this is the basics. You go back and you ask yourself, what's it feel like in my body when I get triggered? Like, oh, my stomach feels weird. My neck feels tight, my jaw, whatever. And then you go, what's the first time I ever felt that way? And some weird image will pop in your head. Oh, that's right. When I was 5, and little Johnny punched me in the face, or the teacher yelled at me, or whatever. That can't be related. It doesn't make any sense. I'm a grown adult. Except the body, it learned fear back then, and it's just running that program, and it runs the program before you can think. So now you've got it. You know its name. You know what happened, and you run the rest of the steps of this process that lets you go in and never experience that again. And most meditation, I've been on remote mountaintops in Tibet, I've been in psychologists' couches. They always say the same thing: sit there or lay there and gently notice the intrusive thoughts and feelings. Just let them gently wash over your mind. Set them aside. Return to deep breathing. Seriously, you do that for 20 years and you're still gently setting them aside, and it'll work, sort of, but it takes 20 years. I don't have 20 years. So no, let's lean in. Let's find the steps that let us just go in and say, hey, buddy, you could feel this instead of feeling anger or hate or distrust or whatever it is you're feeling.
It's a choice.
Yeah, it's a choice, but it's not you that's has the problem. It's your body that has the problem. It's just your body's between you and the world outside of you.
Between the world and you. That's Ta-Nehisi Coates, Between the World and Me. We're talking with Dave Asprey. His latest book is Heavily Meditated. You talk about writing things down, and I love this because I do think there's power, particularly in glyphs and script. Like we've removed, writing in school.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's on a computer, but we've disconnected something. You call it casting spells, which I do believe that there is part of speaking things into existence. People don't, we've been taught that that's spooky but we've allowed people to take that very powerful tool away from us because it's been, put in a space of demonic energy or whatever. But talk a little bit about the power of writing your intentions and how that works.
Well, in the beginning, there was the word, and it was a sound, right?
You better say that. Dave, what's funny? We just talked yesterday about speaking in tongues.
Oh, wow.
And I was having fun with it. But then you brought it up today, and then that's one of my favorite scriptures. In the beginning was the word, and the word became flesh, because people don't use their words for power. They use them to destroy people usually, which is
exactly
so silly.
So the vibration, the sound, and in Christianity, we've got that. And if you go to most of the very ancient, like shamanic stuff or any of these, they always say the same thing. There was a sound at the beginning. So there's some kind of vibration. But then most things around the world, they all develop writing. And we call it spelling when we write a word. And it originated by taking these sounds and turning them into shapes. Like that's what Sanskrit was. That's what the hieroglyphs were in ancient Egypt. So these are basically crystallized sounds, and they do have power. And when you take a pen and you write it down, or you scratch it in sand on a beach, it doesn't really matter. You're affecting reality at a way that you cannot perceive from your conscious mind, but it does make a difference to the hardware in your body. So there's something important about writing. And I still have a stack of paper that I use when I'm doing journaling or personal development stuff because it works better than typing it. And of course, I have my AI take notes at the same time because I can look it up easier on there than I can on my paper. But I wrote it on the paper. I don't like it that it works better. I just want to type it. Sadly, it just does work better. So I'll do the thing that works best.
Yeah. This is so powerful. Dave, as you started losing 100 pounds, at what point in that journey did you realize it was working? Because it was a theory and then it became a reality. What point was that?
There was a lot of points. I'd lose 20, gain 30. Lose 30, gain 40. I yo-yoed a lot. And then I finally lost 50 pounds in about 3 months. And it's because I cut gluten out of my diet, and I'm sensitive to gluten, and I never knew. But the other 50 pounds took 10 years. I tried every diet. I became a vegan. I tried something called the Atkins diet, which is basically keto, but in the 90s, and it had some problems with it. And I finally came up with this thing that no one had ever written about that said, well, 5-6 days a week, don't eat any carbs and eat a lot of good fats, but certain kinds of fats. And no one had done that before. Before we used to only just eat canola oil. As long as it's not a carbohydrate, you could eat it, but that doesn't work very well. So I'm just going to do this for 5 or 6 days. and then I'm going to have some carbs. And then I'm going to do it again, and then I'll have some carbs. So cycling in and out of this, I lost the rest of the weight, but it took 10 years of experimenting. I've interviewed 1,400 experts on my podcast, and I've written 3,000 articles about this, and I've tested it every which way. And so I just tell people, man, some of the foods, they may be foods that you love that are traditional foods. They may be sabotaging your weight loss because you're sensitive to them. In my
Mm,
case, I grew up in New Mexico. We got a kind of chili there. That's the best chili on earth. Everyone who has chili says that about their own chili. But my family's genetically allergic to that stuff. That's why I had arthritis when I was 14. So I found out this food that works for some people, it's kryptonite for me, and maybe it's a superfood for you. So what you do is you go for a couple of weeks and you don't eat that many different foods. And if
that's
during that time your rash goes away, you stop farting, your face isn't puffy, you sleep really well, you're not angry all the time, you don't have pimples, and you said like, wow, the world looks different. Well, newsflash, something that you were eating, and probably lots of things you were eating, they
that's
were
right.
kryptonite. You will never lose weight if you're punching your mitochondria in the face every day with foods that you love. And a lot of them are ultra processed foods. And it gets really rough too, because a lot of people say, but like, rice and beans, that's my soul food. I was once in a relationship with someone from Belize, and you go to Belize, they'll give you 3 kinds of rice and 3 kinds of beans and 1 inch of chicken, and that's your meal. Problem is, you get fat on that if you weren't genetically wired for thousands of years eating that,
That's
right?
right.
So it's a
There
it's
we
a
go.
tough situation, and so what you find over time is, some foods work pretty well for you and some don't, and there's no moral judgment on that, right? So I just tell people, here's the foods that don't work for anybody. Ultra processed stuff, canola oil, high fructose corn syrup, artificial flavors, all the stuff that they put in food deserts almost exclusively. Those are the things that no one should eat
That's right.
because it's just bad for humans, and companies shouldn't even make that stuff.
Let's talk about that when we come back. And let's talk about fabric softener because you had me at
Oh,
fabric softener,
yeah.
by the way.
Get rid
All
of
right.
it.
And if you want more, the human upgrade biohacking for longevity and performance, that is Dave Asprey's podcast. And the new book is heavily meditated. And today's Wellness Wednesday is brought to you by BetterHelp for better mental health. You can head over to betterhelp.com/Karen Hunter for 10% off your first month. That's betterhelp.com/Karen Hunter. Dave Asprey sticking around. We'll take your calls as well, 866-801-8255, and we'll be right back.